Well, good evening, Glue Troopers. Max of Maxis Models here. So this morning I got cracking on the Revell PBY Catalina, and I immediately ran into an issue. Revell has the yokes all wrong. It has conventional pedestal up through the floor yokes with the twin hand grips. That is not what a Catalina has. The PBY has these massive sort of ovally looking things that are on a crossbar with switches in between. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work even in a kit with details this basic. I'm not going to stick the wrong yokes in. So first thing I did was find myself a little piece of wire and tried to bend something that at least resembled the actual yokes in the airplane. And I was happy to see that the decals, despite being 50 years old, actually still worked. That I put the instrument decal on there after I'd painted the interior zinc chromate, which we're going to talk about in a second. But you're probably not going to be able to see it. It turns out that it doesn't really matter because this cockpit is woefully wrong in so many levels. Here's a picture of the little pilot figure, which was he doesn't look 1/72nd scale, and he sits way too far away from the instrument panel. And I get it, again, 1965 molding, they probably didn't have any information on the interior, but this guy's not even 1/72nd scale. I grabbed a bunch of my little figures and laid them out, and he's about 1/110 scale, roughly the same size as the little guy in white who is he came off one of those rocket kits that are 1/110 scale. And I grabbed the 1/72nd scale characters, and I was like, you know what, just to make sure I know I have 1/72nd scale, I'm going to go get a 1/72nd scale off the kit. So I got this Airfix Fiat G50, took the pilot out of it, and yeah, he's not even close to 1/72nd scale. And the actual 1/72nd scale pilots have to be basically cut in half and the seats and everything removed if I want to put them in the cockpit. That's going to take a lot of work if I decide I want to get that far in the weeds with it. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but I went ahead and finished working on the cockpit. And I was like, okay, well, we'll figure out a plan later what we want to do with it, to just leave the cockpit empty or put in the undersized people or modify it to look like the right people. I don't think you're going to be able to see inside that well, so probably doesn't matter. Anyway, I was like, okay, speaking of cockpits and glass and framing, it's time to continue. Had a little communication with the other half of this challenge. It's Mr. Jordan over at Copperhead Modeling. You can go check out his channel there if you like. And he's actually zinc chromating the interior, and the interiors are largely zinc chromate, although a lot of the Catalinas, I've noticed the interior framing in the cockpit is black, as is the instrument panel, probably to reduce light reflection and glare, but the rest of it's pretty much zinc chromate. And I figured, well, if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I went to zinc chromate the interior. That was actually done before I ran into the problem with the pilots, as you can tell by the fact that the cockpit's been zinc chromated when I fit them. But I immediately ran into a little bit of an issue because my little airbrush didn't want to work. And a good chunk of the morning wound up going into airbrush maintenance. And I have another airbrush, the bit larger one, the big Iwata, which I wound up using because I could not get the smaller one to work. And I mean, it'll run cleaner through it or isopropyl, but you put any paint in there, it immediately stops. For a while there, it'll work for just a second. It's something's gummed up in there, and it's in there we can't get to it. And so it was recommended to let things soak overnight, so I've got it. I was going to try and soak it in Tamiya airbrush cleaner overnight, but I didn't have enough to submerge it. But I did have enough of the Tester's Universal Thinner, so I've got it wrapped up in there, and it's I don't know how much of that will evaporate out overnight, but hopefully when I decant it tomorrow, it'll blow everything out of there that it was, get it degummed. And I've gone in there. I have the cleaning kits and everything. A lot of you guys gave me the airbrush cleaning kits. I've been in there with the cleaning rods and everything else, and I don't see any impediments. It's just, who knows, the mysteries inside of airbrush. So Once I got that done, I decided to paint the outside with flat black because I also wanted to test some of the outside decals, see if they're any good. And I've gotten in this habit of sometimes before I put on any clear parts, I'll lay down the base coat, and then I'll come back later after the model's built, and take care of the seams and everything, and maybe put more coats on. But this seems to make it easier that I can mask off an entire section if I follow a rivet line, and with the masking tape to keep things like windows and stuff from having to be remasked and everything. I went ahead and once I had it painted black, I not only tried the decals, which again to my surprise actually worked very well, and I dull coated those after it was done, and I also went ahead and I shot both halves in flat black, and then I put in the windows. Also, again, I got back to work on the canopy framing. Well, I put zinc chromate on the inside of the canopy up above their heads, left the rest of it black. But as far as the blisters and the nose turret and everything, when I started marking all those up, I used, and I decided I'd experiment. On one of them, the one that I'm using the Tamiya tape on, I used the zinc chromate on the inside and then just etched out any if I had a smear or something, once it hardened, I just etched it out because it's acrylic. And then put the black tape on the outside over it. Looked fine. Then on the other one, I went ahead and put zinc chromate on the outside and then put black paint on the outside over the zinc chromate. And they both looked just as good. I don't think there was one that came out looking particularly better than the other. But I think the idea behind that was just to see if one would look crisper, and they came out about on par. So once I was done, I went ahead and dipped all of those parts. Everybody, especially the ones with the tape, you want to dip them in the wax, the floor wax, to make sure they seal up. The tape won't come off. But now they're both dipped, so that should prevent the acrylic paint from chipping off, which it does off of course, the clear acrylic surface very easily. So those are set aside, and then while I was doing all this, I had that little Airfix Fiat G50 that I'd grabbed the pilot from just sitting there. A real simple kit. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes you just, you get to a point where you have to stop and let things harden and dry. I was like, well, you know what? I'll play with this little Airfix kit, and start tinkering on it while everything's hardening. Keep my hands doing something productive and keep them off the PBY. And the Airfix kit's super simple, real basic. And so I was like, you know what, this is a perfect little thing to work with. Plus, I don't think I have any Italian aircraft from World War II on my shelf, so that'll make a nice little addition. So I would work on that in the meantime. And one of the things I did was, because the kit goes together pretty easy, I decided to pre-paint the wings and fuselage. I'll get the base coat on them, and they have that weird camouflage pattern. I wasn't going to get in the weeds with this. This is a real simple, basic, just something to keep me busy. And I tried putting Aztec putty on it in blotches so that I could overspray it, and that would give me that wild Italian pattern. But in little bits, the Aztec doesn't stick very well. So I wound up using that green canopy mask, just dotting little bits of it on there. And, set that aside, let it harden, go back to the Catalina. And they got working on the landing gear on the Catalina. You got to be real careful with the landing gear on this thing. First off, it's complex. The parts are side specific. It's easy to get the wrong one on the wrong side. And the wheel wells are mislabeled. And I triple checked it. According to the instruction sheet, it says, this one's 18. I'm like, no, 18's oriented the other way. So, not a big deal. But also had to bore out the holes in there to get the landing gear pins to fit in. So it was actually a little more work than I expected on that. Then went back, checked on my goo dots. Once they dried up enough, I gave it a shot of all drab. And then back to the PBY. And the blister mounts are separate pieces. You have the side of the airplane, then you have the blister mounts, and then you have the blisters themselves. And there's some clear acrylic that goes down in the bottom of the blister mount. Well, it was hard to get those mounts to set right. So I had to get some extra glue in there and had this weird... And this is why I'm glad I did this before I put the sides of the airplane together. I'd actually put the guns in. I had to remove one of them. But I had to do some interesting clamping, and I'm going to let those harden overnight. And tomorrow I'll put the gun back in that one, and then we'll proceed from there. But the side piece, you tend to forget there's little bits of clear that you can't see, and of course I'll have to overshoot it again, and I'll probably do that before I put any of the clear acrylic parts on it. There's little windows down on the bottom of those ring mounts, blister mounts. So one of them I've got in, one of them I'll put in tomorrow. The one that's in there, I'll just have to mask that up if I reshoot it. Not a big deal, but the fit and finish so far on this airplane is about what you expect from a 1960s kit. But I also had this D-21 drone laying around. I seem to have lost a nose cone to it somewhere. It was in my spares. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a kit bash of something out of that. And so I just, 3 whole parts. But threw that together. I'll play with it, do something. A proto-Imperial TIE fighter or something. We'll see. But so the Catalina's coming along slowly. And the Fiat G50 just looks like crap. 1/72 scale kit like this, when I'm busy doing, I don't like get into puttying it or trying to seam it up. This is just sort of play and have fun. Of course, I think it'll still look fine sitting on the shelf with all my other 1/72 scale kits, but ain't none of them masterpieces. But you know what? From 5 feet away across the tarbus, when your eye happens to catch them, oh look, yellow, very pretty, yellow in camouflage, even if it's highly inaccurate. And but it was fun, and in the end, that's what matters. So I'll go over and see if Mr. Jordan over at Copperhead Modeling's made any progress, got any new videos up, and also as a side note, 2 more points. One, I actually was watching Rex's Hangar today, and he's changed his format. He's actually appearing on camera. I don't know if any of you guys watch Rex's Hangar or not, but he was talking about liaison planes in the Army, and we'd just done that thing about Army aviation. So I sent him an email and a couple of links and asked him maybe he'd be interested in joining us on a live stream or something. So we'll see if he answers me or not. And this weekend for the live stream, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, probably whatever you guys like, but one thing that did pop up on my radar recently, I was watching a little documentary about the Vanguard, which is a turboprop airliner that Vickers came out with. Apparently a very popular airplane with those who flew it, but kind of forgotten the history. They only made like 50 of them. They just, they came out when jets were starting to come out, so bad timing. Great airplane, wrong time. And I think we might start off talking about kit models of planes and cars and things that are kind of forgotten to history. So if you guys have any suggestions, you let me know. All right, we will talk to you later. You guys take care of yourselves. And as always, model on.
He's got glue on his hands and a spark in his brain. Tiny cars, tiny jets, tiny military planes. From tanks to trains to rockets that soar, he built it up and then built some more.